2 years ago, June, I moved to Charlotte from Atlanta. Best fucking thing I ever did. And by that September, I was aggressively going to events, making friends, gathering community to me, but I was still kind of off center. I didn't have a reliable place to get my nails done. I didn't have a place to, this is important, didn't have a place to board the dog, and I was still using my GPS to get everywhere, including Harris Teeter, which was like a mile from the house. And I was also leaning into feeling like I maybe possibly I didn't know everything, and maybe I wasn't right about everything, kind of trying to be a reformed snob. So I was learning to say things like, "That's a good idea. Thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate that. I'll look that up." Unironically and sincerely. So in that, but I was kind of craving something familiar from my old life. So in that spirit, I invited a play friend up from Atlanta for the weekend. And this is Craig. And when I say play friend, I mean I had played with him exactly once during pickup play at Atlanta's Dungeon. And this particular dungeon, there were dungeon monitors. You get to play under your scene name. So it's what I call safely unsafe. And now I was inviting Craig up to my home where I live and I keep my stuff. So I'm either a really good judge of character, which the jury's out on that one, or I got lucky and Craig is a responsible sadist. So he got up to my place early that Saturday afternoon, and we said our hellos. I was really nervous. I giggled a lot. We kissed. We hugged a little bit. And he said, "I noticed there's a CVS up on the corner. I'm going to go get some condoms. I'll be right back because sometime this weekend I'm going to rail you." And that was the sexiest thing anybody'd said to me in a really long time. So he got back with the condoms. We go upstairs. And he was a responsible sadist, so yes, thank God. So he, totally negotiated the scene ahead of time. Asked me all the questions. Do you have any, trauma that I should know about? Do you have any bodily injuries I should know about? And then he asked me one that totally threw me off. He said, "How long do you want your bruises to last?" And it didn't occur to me that anybody had the kind of control or skill to gauge how long your bruises would last. I said, "Huh?" He goes, "Yeah, a day, a week, a month." I said, "I don't know." So I picked the middle one. He's like, "A week. Okay, great. Okay, let's get started." So he unpacked his toy bag, which is an enormous bag of evil, believe it or not, on the top of my great-grandmother's cedar chest. There's like all of these things. I'm like, it's like, come on. It's like, just, if you're in heaven, just turn a blind eye here. So, and he said, "Okay, pick 3 implements. We're not going to add anything once the scene starts, but we can take things away." So I picked a flogger, some vampire gloves, and I was feeling cocky, and I picked out a paddle. I was like, "Yeah, right." He brought rope. Oh my God. And I was fascinated by rope. I didn't even know that was a thing until a couple of months before that. And he did some beautiful ties. And he tied my legs together in a mermaid tie. He tied a reverse chest harness. So he had this handle, and he could yank me toward him, which was very, very sexy. And he just, sometimes I was on the bed. Sometimes I was leaning over the bed. And he was flogging me and using the paddle and using the vampire gloves, and he made me count, and if I lost count, he would start over, and sometimes I lost count, and sometimes I kept the count. And then he said, "So now I'm going to have you read out." I was like, "Okay." He said, I'm going to just keep on flogging you and take as much as you can take, and then call red, which means stop everything. It's like, okay. And at that point in my journey, I was very invested in trying to prove something to myself or prove something to the person on the other end of the implement. And that experience helped me realize how unhelpful that attitude was, that I was keeping myself from enjoying the sensation and being there in the moment. And I read it out twice, once on each breast, so that was amazing. And he just beautifully, gently untied me, lifted me up on the bed and said, "Where do you keep the extra blankets?" And I said, "Hall closet, top shelf." And he grabbed a comforter and wrapped me in it. And I was starting to come down, and he handed me a journal and a pen and said, "Write what you're feeling." And that was hard. And I wrote a few lines, and I drew a sun and a flower with the caption, "We grow toward the sun." And I cried, and I let it all go, and I cried. And we cuddled a little bit more, sent out for Chinese food, chatted a little bit, and later that night I got the railing I was promised. And he gave me a pounding, and when we were done, he said, "Did that scare you?" And the tiniest little bit of me that's a brat said, "No, not in the least." Because after all, I've been pounded before. So we fooled around a little bit in the morning. He left. I saw him twice more. Like a month or so later, I invited him back up for a party with my new friends. And, that's wonderful. Yes. Some of those people here to attest to that. It was fun, but, it's never the same when even no matter how good your friends are. And I saw him again that next spring at Frolicon in the hallway of the hotel. We were both fully clothed. And I turned into an obsessive puddle. I could not be around him. I couldn't talk. I giggled. And I just thought, you know what? I can't afford to turn into an obsessive puddle for anybody right now. I need to face my life as it is. And I unfriended him and got on with things. So as a coda to this story, when I contacted Craig to ask him if I could use his name in this story, he said, "Yeah, sure, talk about me. But it's a shame about the unfriending." And I thought, you know what? Maybe it's time I let go of the whole melancholy tragic girl thing. And I asked for him to friend me again, and he did, because honestly, you can never have enough friends.